Well, good afternoon.
It
And
is
how's Thomas
indeed.
today?
Hello, hello, left coast. Hello, left coast.
Yes. I'd like to say that we're receiving well, but I don't know.
Well, here it is, the 17th of February,
Oh, God,
2024. Time is flying by real
it
fast.
sure is. It sure is. Boy, I tell you, next thing you know, it's going to be Christmas.
Okay, there's some optimism. We were
Yeah.
just so listen. He's Bob. I'm Tom, and this is the Border Poll Journal, edition number 5 for season 3. Just for the record. And before we get started, we want to tell you that we're looking forward to you hitting that subscribe button, which is somewhere there on your screen, and hit the bell button somewhere else on your screen to tell us how you are doing with exploratory things. I think we have someone on the line. Hang on a second. Hello.
I'm in your waiting room.
Okay, but here we go.
There we are.
And we're on our way. And we have a special edition here today, which is about life in general and how things are working out not these days. And we have a special guest, and our guest is Andrea Hadlington.
Yes. Hello, Andrea.
Hello.
Long time no see.
Oh, well, you're getting the whole long weekend look today because this is the long weekend.
Okay, full disclosure here. Andrea is related to me. She's my daughter. And she had an interesting experience the other day, which we talked about. And we thought we would incorporate that into the podcast today. But before we do that, a little bit about her. She's an insurance executive, and that's what she does. And if she wants to say something about that, fine. If not, that's fine too.
Oh, that is what I do. I'm a business development manager in insurance. So been doing this gig for quite a while.
Well, we've been doing the gig for too long.
And I understand you got quite a big client base, which is neat.
Yes, I'm fortunate to work with a lot of national groups. So it's every day is different, and I learn something new every day.
Outstanding.
Well, then it's not a total waste of a day, and that's great.
No, it's not.
But we're not here to talk about you and your insurance background.
No, we're here to talk about squash.
Squash, exactly.
Not the game.
Not the game. No,
not
an
the game.
actual butternut squash.
Okay, so we need to tee this up here because Bob and I were saying, what should we call this edition of the Border Poll Journal? And we played around with some idea. We said we'll call it the gloom and doom edition because it seems it's all we ever talk about how the economy is not working or immigration's not working or too many wars or what have you. We thought, that we're always doing that. And then you had an idea, Bob.
Did I? Was that the smoke coming out of my head that gave it away, or what?
It was about the economy and how we're being told one thing by our illustrious leaders, how great everything is going. Yes, we'll explain that one later on what that means. For those who are watching the podcast, of course, you can't see anything; you have to hear it. So we have to be aware of the fact that we have audio and video going out. But we thought we'd talk about something that affects all of us, even though the powers that be tell us that everything is hunky-dory in the economy for everyday working people.
That's right.
And so yesterday, Andrea, you had a story which I thought was just amazing. So I'll let you take it away.
Well, and it's quite possibly the most eye-opening moment I've had in the last few years. Mike tends to go grocery shopping regularly, so I don't go out too much to do that.
Now that'd be
But
your spouse,
my spouse, my husband,
your
but
husband.
I was off yesterday, so I'm like, don't worry, I'll go do the groceries. And just to from a budget perspective, we try to stay around $200 a week, which is like very difficult right now. So you give up the little treats and the wants and you focus on the needs. And one of those being produce.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, and there's 4 of you. So, when you're
There's
talking
4 of
about,
us.
right.
Yes. So you walk into the grocery store and you veer to the left and you're right into the produce section. And the first thing, the first eye-opening bit of yesterday was I had 3 things in my cart and I had already hit almost $40. It was a bag of apples.
Wow.
It was some bananas. It was one tomato, which by the way was $2.99 a pound, so that's one tomato. Um, and sorry, just trying to remember now. Oh, a cabbage and the squash. At this point, probably $30. So I'm like, wow, that's great. I still have a lot of stuff I got to do. So that was basically the end of the produce shopping, apart from I saw these squashes that I thought, well, $2.99. Yeah, it's a little pricey. I'm going to take off the top of it. I'm going to take off the bottom, and then I'm going to skin it. Then I'm going to take the seeds out, and I'm going to end up with maybe 2 cups of chopped squash. But for $2.99, okay. Anyway, go through the rest of the store, get to the checkout, putting, scanning stuff, and then the squash gets scanned. And the cashier says to me, this squash is $7.50. And I said, pardon me? She says it's $7.50. It's $2.99 a pound.
Wow.
She says to me, do you want the squash? I said, no, I do not want the squash. I am not spending almost $8 for this
Root vegetable.
root vegetable, which, in the winter, this is something that you tend to buy because it's economical. They're usually the cheapest thing. You make soups with it. You can make ravioli, whatever. It's the cheap thing that you buy in the winter, to have healthy, balanced diets or whatnot. Not yesterday. No, that squash went back to the produce section. It was actually infuriating,
Yeah.
I have to say, because when you looked at the other stuff that I had bought, there was stuff on sale, like a bag of Twizzlers. I bought them as a treat. They were $2. There was the cabbage, for example. It was $1.19 per unit. There was, I don't know, I had a pork loins were on sale. I think it was less than $20 for 2 jumbo pork loins. So just to put all of this into perspective, the squash was absolutely ridiculous. And they're scamming you in a way because you think it's $2.99 unless you read it really carefully and it says $2.99 a pound. You're not going to use this whole squash either. And it's just going to get scanned through. The only reason I knew it was almost $8 is because the cashier probably thought, this lady's crazy. She's going to spend $8 for this squash, or she knows that nobody knows that the squash is going to cost this much. Anyway, that's the squash story. It was infuriating, and it really brings everything that we're all going through to home.
Well,
Well,
it got you mad enough, I guess, because you called me and you said you'll never believe what happened, and I thought maybe you had a flat tire or something else was going wrong, and it started the squash
No.
story.
Yes. So go ahead, Bob.
you are very fortunate, and kudos to your grocery store for pointing that out. We didn't find out until we came home when we were going through the grocery bills that we bought an acorn squash or a spaghetti squash or something. And I thought that the big one hit the earth, the West Coast out here, because you're shaking. Like, how did I manage to pay $8 for this squash? Nobody, you're right. Nobody meant just scan through.
Yeah. And you
So,
can't eat that whole squash. Yes, you
no,
can roast the seeds perhaps, but I mean, you're cutting off half of what you paid for and it's going in the green bin. you know, maybe there's something happening out there that's affecting squash distribution or growth. Like I haven't heard anything in the news. Is it? I don't know.
There's a
But
shortage of squashes. There's a run on
so
squash.
I'm actually, I don't know, but I'm glad to hear that you have gone through the same thing because honestly, the funny part about all of this is apples have been more expensive lately. Everyone knows, like, so you're buying like much smaller bags of apples for $10. Well, yesterday the giant like 2 or 3 kilo bag was $9.99. I'm like, wow, that's a little bit expensive, but okay, there's probably, you know, 30 apples in there, right? Not really a bad deal when you're going to pay $8 for one squash.
Of which you're going to lose half to the grain waste.
Exactly. So anyway, it's a little bit of a vent, but you know,
No, but the reason
you can't eat healthy when you can't even buy the root vegetables, let's be honest.
Well, that's true. And we won't even go into the cost of what it cost you to get there.
Well, yeah, that too.
well, it's
Apparently, we're not going to be fixing any roads anymore either. So, or building. I forget.
no, you're not building any more roads because all your money's going for squash.
That's right.
No,
Good.
this story is I think the reason we've decided to do the video and the podcast on this, which some people will laugh, say, "What are you guys doing?" You know, you usually talk about more esoteric things like wars and you know, government programs that aren't working, but at the human level, this is a kind of a story that, you know, really gets you thinking, because we're continually being told how everything is going well. The economy is booming. The stock market is up. We're dealing with inflation. Jobs are plentiful, et cetera, et cetera. But this squash story kind of brings it all home to, what are you talking about? When's the last time the prime minister or the president went out to the grocery store and actually had to decide what to buy that day or that week, given their budget? Because these people seem to be living in some other paradigm when it comes to what does it cost day to day to live in North America. I mean, it's not really you got to be careful with the words here, but in many respects they're lying to us and trying to make us feel good about this. And the squash
Well,
story brings it home.
It does, but you know, to bring it to perspective, and this goes way back. Do you remember the movie The American President?
I don't, but tell. Go.
Anyway, it's a story where the American president, he's I think he's widowed or divorced, and he wants to take up with this news lady, and he wanted to buy her some flowers. And he got onto the White House phone line and said, you know, hook me up with such and such a florist. And they did. They phoned and said, you know, I'm the president of the United States. Yeah, sure you are. And he finally he got so frustrated with not being able to buy flowers over the phone, he went down in person to this flower shop and realized that he didn't have any money. So it goes on. You know, like you say, art imitating life. I wonder what would have happened if they had done this with, I'd like to buy my wannabe girlfriend a really expensive gift, so I'm going to go down and get her an acorn squash.
Yeah, no, but this is really what impacts everyday life for people. You know, in real circumstances. Today, I noticed that the price of gas went up 6 cents a liter here, out of the clear blue sky for no particular reason at all. And you were saying that on the West Coast, you're talking about refineries having to shut down for maintenance purposes, because that's why the price of gas has gone up.
Well, and you also hit on a point too, that it just happens to coincide with a long weekend.
That's right. It's family weekend, I think they call it in Ontario.
Family Day weekend.
Family Day weekend, and it's President's Day in the US. So you can't even escape over to Blaine or over to Port Huron, because they probably jacked up the price there.
Well, I'll tell you, if I went down to Blaine, I would still get it cheaper than what I'm paying here. So
Yeah, and we look at grocery prices between Canada and the US. In fact, Andrea, we were in Port Huron a couple of weeks ago, as you remember, and we were surprised at the cost of some products significantly less in Port Huron than they are here in southwestern Ontario. Particularly eggs and dairy products are totally priced out of the market here.
Well, yeah.
But
Didn't we have something happen the other day with the UK not wanting to pursue a free trade agreement again? You know, I don't know
yes,
what that was all about.
well,
but
we've not heard. Well, they stopped the discussions because the UK was basically getting shortchanged because of the dairy lobby in Canada wouldn't allow UK dairy products without a significant tariff or exclusion, I should say, from being exported into Canada. So, you know, a lot of these things are man-made, these price hikes. Now, I don't know what the squash impetus was for the price rise, but I think when you talk about things like a carbon tax, it's supposed to go up 23% on the 1st of April. And we're told by these folks that that has no impact on the retail end of prices. So the trucker that has to pay more for their gas, or the grocer that has to
farmer
pay,
that's running on diesel that costs way more. Yeah.
all these things work its way through the supply chain, but they don't apparently, in the delusional minds of the people who create this stuff, has any impact at the retail level, where Joe Blow and Jane Blow have to go and buy groceries or gas, or just
Okay.
never mind our utility bills, which are skyrocketing as a result of taxes, not as a result of the product. It's the taxes that are
Yeah.
woven through. And Canada is particularly a good example of overtaxation, where we now passed the 50% mark of GDP in terms of taxes.
Yeah.
And that's very close to the beginning of a centralized economy, which was prevalent during the Soviet Union era, where they decided what the cost of everything was going to be, not based on the supply and demand, but because somebody decided that's what it's going to be. And so we're starting to go down that route, and I think the same is happening in our southern neighbors region, where they're getting all kinds of wacky price distortions as a result of interference by government in supply chain matters. But anyway, then we go into the esoteric. But this was the squash story that was really the important one for our viewers and listeners. Little light on the esoteric this week, Bob. But
That's probably true. Yeah, and that's okay. We have a couple of things to say. I can't remember now. We'd have to go back and look at our podcast. Do I owe you 2 cents, or do you owe me 2 cents?
No, sorry. You owe me 2 cents because my team won the Super Bowl. Okay. And
well, I guess I'm going to leave you with that conversation then.
Well, we're pretty well done. Thanks, Andrea, for dropping
in.
Well,
thanks for that
sharing
story.
that story with us. I'm sure it will ring some bells in the.
I'm hoping to hear some comments about squash prices.
Maybe we'll be.
I'd like the answer. I'd like to know if something else is going on in the squash market, perhaps. But anyway, thank you for having me. I'm
the
happy
great squash mystery has been revealed.
We've had illusions of pork bellies. Now we're going to get into squash.
Thanks, Andrea.
All right. Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodness.
So there you go. That's the great squash mystery cleared up.
True. And I think the other thing, didn't we have to talk about the term Skippy?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Now, yes, this is Skippy is the euphemism many use in Canada to describe the Prime Minister.
Yes.
And that's probably the nicest word sometimes that you hear. Or the least offensive.
Well, and it's from my perspective, You could take the most vile, disgusting thought, word, swear word, whatever you want, and call an individual that. But in some cases, those swear words serve a useful purpose. Whereas I really can't see any useful purpose that our current leader has.
No.
But that's just a personal opinion.
I know you have to say that. It's your robe is showing.
Well, and I have to say at this point, I don't have a lot of faith in the other prime
The
minister.
alternative.
Well, the other prime minister of the country, or wannabe prime minister of the country, who is a big charlatan, and we've got another guy who is. He talks a lot, but he's totally unproven. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, one of the nicest. No, I wouldn't. That's not true. One of the funniest events this week in politics took place in the Canadian Parliament, where the leader of the opposition was asking questions about our favorite scandal, Arrive Can.
Arrive scam.
Arrive scam. Okay, that's the political term used by the opposition on the Arrive Can scandal, which is ballooned into $250 million worth of contracts all over the place that no one can find the money on. Imagine they can't really track down how $250 million went to consultants on this. But I digress. The funny part was the leader of the opposition got up and made his pitch to the government side about this Arrive scam debacle, and it closed out his statement by going WTF.
Wisco Tangy Foxtrot.
Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, exactly. Which, of course, there was gasps on the government side, and the speaker got up and said, "That's not parliamentary talk." So I think
apparently this is okay.
Yeah, that's okay. You can't see that on the podcast, but you can see it on the video. So he got up and then said, "Where's the funds?" As in, $250 million. Where's the money? And so that was gasp. Not to mention, quite conveniently, while all this is being brought up in the House of Commons, like, where is the money for this Arrive scam? Where did it go? Who got it? They suddenly had a demonstration in the gallery. My goodness, by pro-Palestinian demonstrators. Now, how they got into the gallery with banners and yelling and screaming just when we're about to get some kind of answers, not from the government about this huge amount of money that they can't find, that went to consultants who did nothing except fill their boots with the taxpayers' money. Anyway, it is a scandal of monumental proportions, and I still believe it'll bring down the government. I said this a year ago, and I'll take that 2-cent bet on that one with you too.
Well, there was that children's story called The Never Ending Story, and this seems to be what it is, that's for sure.
Oh, it is a never ending story. Okay. And then you have this, and this is screwy. Nobody can find the money, but everything is upside down, which is why the squash story is so relevant to us, because that's real life. But look what happened in New York and in Atlanta with the American justice system, where they're taking down Trump, one over something that has no victims. Nobody complained about his real estate deals, and they're going to take $385 million out of his pocket. And the other bunch down in Atlanta, they're too busy figuring out why the DA's boyfriend has erectile dysfunction problems, and that's what they're focusing on. I'm thinking, this is the screwiest place on the planet, right? Halfway around the world, there are hundreds of thousands of deaths in a war and what have you, and famine and incompetence. And these guys are worried about stuff that never happened in New York, or somebody's got a sexual dysfunction problem in Atlanta, and that's making the news.
Yeah, and we shouldn't be worried about that. But remember, it's the watch the right hand.
I know.
Because-
Yeah, I know. It's anyway. So we thought we'd lighten the this week's podcast with the squash story, which in and of itself is thought provoking, because it really, it just brings home the point that we're being lied to. Everything's hunky dory, but don't buy squash because it's almost $8.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope that some of our viewers will be able to tell us this squash mystery, and or just not just squash. Like what else are we paying exorbitant fees for other than carbon fuel?
Well, why are you buying? You told me you're buying mandarin oranges flown in from Cyprus to Vancouver.
Yeah,
You can't tell me there's no big carbon footprint on that one.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Well, I was going to say too, you were talking about taxes on taxes, and I was talking to a couple of friends that I used to ride bikes with, and both of those gentlemen are now late 70s, early 80s. And one of the fellows was talking about his natural gas bill for the month. It was $75 for the month. The product cost $3.72. That's how much natural gas he used. And the rest was taxes.
Yeah.
45 of which was carbon tax.
Yeah. Yes, but you're going to get some of that back. You're going to be.
We don't. No, we don't.
Well,
You're
obviously.
out here in BC. It's all part and parcel of provincial government, and we don't have those nice checks that show up on our bank accounts.
Well, you're just going to have to suck up to Skippy then, because we get some of it back. First, we steal a whole bunch from you, and then we give you a little bit back, and we're doing you a favor. Whilst we're in our jets flying around various parts of the world, solving climate and doing world peace and blah blah blah. I guess we're just a little cynical today.
Well, it's hard to maintain that rosy. What was the term in 2015? A brand new rosy colored. I don't know what it was.
No. Sunny ways.
Oh,
sunny ways.
It's hard to maintain sunny ways when you see $8.50 for squash.
That's right. And today we're building back better. Everywhere we're building back better.
Mm-hmm.
Or are we not using that slogan anymore?
Well, I don't know. Again, the untested leader of the opposition got his digs in totally inadvertently, and I guess you can go on YouTube and find this. And I just saw a clip of it where our illustrious prime minister stood up on the floor and was talking about how the leader of the opposition wants to be prime minister of the country, and how he's no more than a Donald Trump, and you got to watch out for this, and he's stealing all this magma stuff, make America great again. And of course, our illustrious prime minister just didn't know when to stop and kept on going on and on and on about this and how. I don't think that's what Canada wants. Canada doesn't want to be great again.
Yeah. Well, let's not bore our international viewers and listeners with this rubbish, because
Yeah, and it's
we want them to go and find out what squash costs in Italy or in Japan or wherever they're watching us.
Or places like, what happens if you grow it? Do you still pay $8.49 to get it to the local grocery store? I don't know.
Let's put this out to our viewers and listeners. Tell us what squash costs where you live, and we'll do a roundup next week on the best place to buy squash.
Well, and I guess just coupled with that, just one little extra thing. Do you import it, or is it locally grown or within state level, or I don't know. Where do you get the squash from?
The great squash mystery has to be solved.
I think so. We're going to put our best and brightest on it.
No, I can't go there because they won't let us on YouTube. All right. Well, I think we can call it a day now for this weekend's broadcast. And thanks, Andrea, for coming on board with that one.
Yeah.
And we're going to put our thinking caps on for next week, bring you something ever so esoteric for next week.
Or maybe we'll really put the cap on and come up with something that is light and humorous and
Yeah, we
non-political.
could we be turning this weekly thing into a comedy show? What will the impact?
Dog and pony show.
What will be the impact on migration, human mobility, which is what our mission is, to talk about those things?
Well, if they find out that we actually do have a fairly light and bright country up here full of sunny ways, maybe people will want to come and stay here in Canada, as opposed to the latest poll, which shows that people aren't doing that.
Yeah, isn't it interesting that we don't track people who leave the country permanently? I mean, they make a determined effort not to get those statistics. Like, how many new arrivals turn around within a year and go, that's not what we were looking for.
Yeah.
In spite of all the anecdotal news about people getting stuff for free, just got off the plane and stuff like that, which
well, I think they would probably get a little bit of sticker shock when they have to go and pay $8.50 for squash. So.
There you go. The great squash equalizer. All right, Bob.
Yeah. Have a good family weekend.
Yes, that's right. To everybody watching in this neck of the world.
President's Day weekend, as the case may be.
It's Washington's birthday. That's what they actually call it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that old guy with the white wig back in 1776.
He's on the $1 bill, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I've not seen any of those lately.
No. Plastic. Yeah.
It's
pretty good.
That's right. Plastic magic. All right. Well, you have a good weekend. We'll see you. We'll see you in 7 days.
I'm on.
Okay. Take care.
You too.